All right, what if the tiniest particles in the universe weren't just, well, building blocks? What if they were the first step in a huge cosmic chain reaction that leads straight to, you guessed it, human consciousness? Today, we're going to unpack a single, really ambitious research paper that suggests exactly that. It's a pretty radical theory that tries to connect everything from neutrinos all the way to our own minds. So let's dive right in and see just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
So yeah, that's the big question right there. Just think about it for a second. The idea that literally everything, we're talking stars, planets, even our own thoughts, could all come from the exact same simple step-by-step sequence. It's a pretty wild concept, isn't it? So you gotta ask, where do you even start with a theory this huge?
Well, according to this paper, the whole universe is built from just 3, let's call them primal ingredients. You can think of it like the ultimate cosmic recipe. So let's take a look and see what's in the pantry.
Okay, first up, ingredient number 1, the neutrino. Now, in this model, this tiny, almost weightless particle isn't just some background noise. No, it's the spark that kicks the whole thing off. And the key here is something called handedness, or chirality if you want to get technical. It basically means they come in left and right-handed pairs. And the entire theory really hangs on this idea that these pairs are the very first step in this whole cosmic chain reaction.
Next in our recipe is a hypothetical particle called the axion, and its job in this whole setup is super specific. Its one and only purpose is to find those neutrino pairs we just talked about and entangle with them. It's basically the cosmic glue, the thing that connects that first link of the chain to whatever comes next.
And our third and final ingredient is the void. But hold on, don't think of it as just empty, dead space. Not at all. In this theory, the void is actually a creative medium. It's more like a fertile field or a painter's canvas, giving all the raw material and potential that the neutrino and axion need to start building the physical world.
All right, so we've got our 3 ingredients, neutrino, axion, and the void. Now this is where it gets really interesting. The next part of the theory is all about how they come together to actually build the physical world. We're talking about going from these abstract little particles to the very fabric of reality.
And here it is, the proposed sequence. It's like a domino effect, really. 1, the neutrino starts it off. 2, it interacts with the axion. 3, this happens within the void. And 4, the result is the very first form of physical stuff, 2D matter. According to the paper, this simple 4-step process is basically the blueprint for, well, everything.
But it doesn't stop there. The theory actually splits this 2D matter into 2 different types. You've got cosmic matter, which is like the main primary layer of reality. And then, supporting that from below, you have geomatter. This stuff is formed from neutrinos that actually come from inside the Earth. Graphene is a good example to think of here. So together, they create this foundational 2-layer sheet for the entire universe. Okay, so now we've got these 2 layers of matter just sitting there. The big question is, what organizes them? What keeps them in order? Well, the paper proposes a force called Cymatics. You might have heard of it. It's the idea that sound and vibration can actually create physical patterns. And in this theory, that's exactly what it does. It acts as the great organizer, structuring those 2 layers and, get this, paving the way for life to begin.
And this quote from the paper really nails down the role of cymatics. It's not just some passive background hum. It's actively maintaining the structure of those first 2 layers, and at the exact same time, it's creating something totally new, 2D biomatter. You can really think of it as the engine that's driving creation forward.
All right, so the physical stage is set. We have matter, we have biomatter. Now the hypothesis takes its biggest, most audacious leap yet. We're moving from the creation of stuff to the emergence of mind. Yeah, we're talking about one of the biggest mysteries in all of science, consciousness itself.
So how does the paper explain consciousness? Well, it proposes its very own fundamental particle for it. It's called the Psychon, and it's supposedly the smallest possible unit of awareness. But here's the thing, these Psychons don't just float around in a vacuum. Nope, they operate inside a special environment, which the paper calls a bio-fine structured medium. And that's basically a fancy way of saying it's a network built from that biomatter we just talked about.
Okay, let's take a quick inventory. We've got matter, we've got biology, and we even have a potential particle for consciousness. But what keeps this whole incredibly complex machine from just, flying apart? The theory's answer is pretty mind-bending, a super sophisticated 5-dimensional control system.
Exactly. That's the million-dollar question. Who or what is conducting this cosmic orchestra? Well, to answer that,
The paper introduces two more theoretical particles that basically act as the gatekeepers of reality.
The first one is called the Janus particle, and it's perfectly named, actually, after the two-faced Roman god of gates and doorways, because its proposed job is, well, exactly that. It's supposed to be a cosmic gate, one that can open and close to control the flow of energy through this whole system.
So, if the Janus particle is the gate, you have to ask, what's flowing through it? According to this theory, it streams of another proposed particle called the Philfo. So it's a perfect analogy. The Janus particle is the gate, and the Philfo particle is the river of energy, light, sound, vibration, that flows right through it, carrying all the essential forces of the system. So what happens when you combine all this physical matter with that controlled stream of energy flowing through the Janus gate? Well, this is where the theory lands on its most provocative idea, 5D DNA. Now, we're not talking about the biological DNA you learned about in school. This is something much more complex, a two-layer system of both matter and energy, all managed by that Janus gate. The paper proposes this is the true blueprint for life.
Okay, I know, this has all been super abstract, right? I mean, 5D DNA, gatekeeper particles, it's a lot. But the paper doesn't just leave it there, in the realm of theory. It actually tries to bring this whole cosmic idea crashing right down to Earth with a surprisingly practical application.
I mean, it seems like a gigantic leap, doesn't it? From the origins of consciousness all the way to planetary engineering? But the paper makes the case that the very same fundamental principles that govern this whole cosmic system could actually be used to protect us from natural disasters.
So here's how they connect the dots. The theory claims that the physics of its 5D system are directly linked to how superhydrophobic surfaces work in the real world. You know, those surfaces that are incredibly water repellent? The author suggests that if we build structures with these properties, something they call a Goombad dome, we could potentially reduce the power of seismic waves and lessen the damage from things like earthquakes and tsunamis.
I mean, just think about the scope of this. It's absolutely breathtaking. We've gone on a journey that started with a single fundamental particle and ended up at a potential technology for protecting entire cities from natural disasters. It's a lot to take in.
Look, in the end, whether this specific theory turns out to be right or wrong, that's almost beside the point. What it does is challenge us to think differently. It pushes us to ask these huge questions about the hidden connections that might link the tiniest quantum events to the biggest structures in the universe, and maybe even to our own consciousness. So it leaves you wondering, what other invisible threads are just waiting out there for us to find? Thanks for diving in with me on this one.